All right, all right, all right. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend, David Furones. And we thank, of course, the great people at Welt Rheaume, Jeff Welton, Daniel Rheaume. They are absolute ass kickers. As a lot of you already know, over the years, you've used Jeff and Dan. And remember, we are in hurricane season. Seems like it's getting cloudy every day. And so even if you don't get hit by a hurricane, which we hope we don't, but we get these thunder showers, and sometimes they create problems for us. If you develop a brown spot in your roof and you think you have a leak or something, you call Welton Raim. They send over their adjusters, and then they attack the insurance company for you. Maybe they can get that roof fixed or get you a brand new roof. So call them 954-966-4646 or save that number because God forbid you need it here during hurricane season. All right, my brother. So are you following Tyreek around to see if he can go meet with Jalen Ramsey?
That's a good one.
I can't believe people are either writing or talking about this or either taking this serious at any level, but go ahead. It's just funny.
Yeah. I mean, whatever Tyreek Hill does is going to draw attention. So I know at least for us, it was my colleague Chris Perkins wrote it, but he wrote it with the context of, but that ain't happening, So Tyreek Hill vows that he's going to do this, but it ain't happening. All right, let's be real. So I feel like that's long gone, but I don't know. Maybe I'll leave like a 1 or 2% chance out there. Let's leave it. Maybe Tyreek Hill is just so engaging and so convincing that there's like a 1 or 2% chance that he can convince Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, he couldn't convince his wife. He's not convincing Jalen Ramsey. So that's where I'm gonna go there. If Keita, right? I think that's her name, right? Keita.
Mm-hmm.
Is it Keita?
Keita, yeah.
Yeah, if Keita didn't stay, I don't think he's going to keep this guy from staying, whatever. Now, is there anything on this front at all? Is there anything on the Jonnu Smith front? Because at least Drew Rosenhaus, and I know I keep asking you this twice a week, but Drew Rosenhaus said he thinks something is going to happen before training camp. So we are about 3 weeks away now from training camp. So I would imagine the countdown is down with the Jonnu Smith one. I don't know about the Jalen Ramsey one. I don't know when that one's going to happen because that one's a lot harder because they're going to have to give up money, and that's a bad situation.
Yeah, I guess 3.5 weeks now. I mean, when we first heard about the Jalen Ramsey trade situation, I said, okay, well, the draft came and went. Nothing, so it makes sense for it to happen post June 1. Post June 1. Let's look at June, and now we're running out of time in June. We might be looking at post July 1 with the way things are going, which there are no added benefits for it to be post July 1. So it's just a matter of the market there just not. I mean, sure, there are some teams.
Has Adam Schefter altered his report on that?
I knew it.
I'm just wondering. We got to kind of, he said there was this big interest in Jalen Ramsey. I'm just wondering if he's adjusted that statement there a little bit. That's all.
Yeah. Last we heard from Adam Schefter was he liked the LA teams, either a return to the Rams or for him to still go back to SoFi, but with the Chargers. Obviously, he was beloved in his time in Los Angeles and was huge in the community there. I remember talking to him all about it when the Dolphins went back to face the Rams for that Monday night game last year. And that was actually probably the most engaging Jalen Ramsey ever was in an interview outside of his introductory press conference in his whole time with the Dolphins. Honestly, it was when he got to talk about his time in LA. So you can tell how he just brightened up.
He won a title there, bro. I mean,
So if I was telling, so I can see that. I remember feeling like Washington. In fact, like for my mock draft, I had him going to Washington in a mock trade. So I could see something like that where maybe it's a Dolphins play against Jalen Ramsey in España when they play the Washington Commanders. So I would cross now the Baltimore Ravens off since they picked up Jair Alexander. Aside from that, I mean, I think it just comes down to how much money the Dolphins will have to pony up in this deal so that they get something of some semblance of value in return, whether that's like a 5th-round pick or something, and how much on the spectrum of balancing what they pay of his contract for this other team to what they can get back that's something reasonable.
Your colleague Chris Perkins wrote an article about that the Dolphins aren't toxic and that Mike McDaniel would never allow it is in the headlines. I'm just wondering, what are the Dolphins? When you look at the Dolphins, David Furones, going into this season, if they're not toxic, what would you call the Dolphins right now in all the defections and everything that's happened and the controversies? And you're in the middle of 2 controversies right now, 2 players that basically won off this team. You know, Jonnu Smith can tell you all he wants about, oh, yeah, I'll stay. But it's basically, oh, I'll stay if you pay me. He doesn't really want to stay. He wants to stay if you pay me a certain amount here. And obviously they don't want to pay him that amount. So these are guys that want to leave. So what are the Dolphins? If the locker room isn't toxic, what is that locker room? Because it certainly isn't the harmony that we're watching with the Florida Panthers.
If I had a few words, I'd say disappointing. I'd say failing to meet expectations in recent seasons. That's how I would chop it up. It's this was a team that over the past several seasons has been made, established, ready to win now, and then hasn't won in any of these seasons.
What is the environment? You are 100%. You are 100% right about how you describe their shortcomings.
Yeah.
But that's not what Perkins was talking about. He was trying to say, hey, it's not a toxic locker room. Okay, but what is this locker room? Because I don't sense that this is a locker room that believes in their coach, believes in their direction. Like if you look at the Panthers right now, bro, every man there, they row the boat in the same direction, in the same rhythm. I mean, that crew, okay, is impeccable right now. They can win any race because they are flowing, baby, flowing. So you tell me, what is this Dolphin locker room? How would you describe it? What is that environment in there?
Maybe the environment, maybe the word for it is easygoing. Is just
carefree.
They're
you're
cool.
talking about carefree. Huh? You're talking about a carefree environment.
Carefree, easygoing. I mean, I wouldn't go carefree. I think that implies like they don't care if they win or lose. There is still a care, obviously, but it's easygoing. Like it's not. Yeah, there are times, there are some losses where yes, they are going to be down, but it's not like it's anything and everything. It's, hey, you still got something to look forward to. We're good. We move right on. We brush it right off.
Let me give you a couple of adjectives, and you tell me if they exist.
All right, let's make it multiple choice.
Is this a confident locker room in their ability as a team?
Confident, yeah. I would say confident. I think
really?
A lot of
You think that team, those guys look at each other and say, "Oh, we can win this game for sure." Really? You think that way? That they're confident the guy next to him and the guy next to him and the guy next to him is going to do their job like they do with the Panthers, that they're going to do that. Like, I don't believe that exists with the Heat, much less with the Dolphins right now. I don't believe the Heat players walk into any game going, "Oh yeah, we got this, baby. Yeah, we're there." No, I think they're questioning themselves. I believe the Dolphins do the same thing because where's the leadership in all of this? Where's the direction? So I'm wondering, how do you see that?
No, I think professional athletes are just wired that way, to be confident. You didn't get to these ranks, to these heights, without a certain confidence about yourself that you could always one up your competition. You could always beat the person in front of you. So a lot of them who have defied odds to get to where they are, coming from humble beginnings, maybe high schools that weren't high profile for recruiting exposure, maybe some lower level colleges where their film wasn't out there in the draft process and they still made it. So I think a lot of professional athletes are just wired that way. You always have confidence.
I think you're misinterpreting it. You're talking about the individual. The individual is different than the team.
No, but it transcends.
No, it does not. You can be confident in your ability. That doesn't mean you're confident you're going to win that game because, shit, I know I'm going to do my job, but this guy's a slapdick, and that guy doesn't run the right routes. And that guy, I know, didn't do his homework because I watched them all week. He wasn't prepared. And the coach keeps playing Julian Hill, and he keeps dropping passes. So you could be confident about who you are. You know what I mean? You're Zach Thomas. Yeah, you're confident, but, like, you're going up against the team. Do you believe that the rest of your linebackers are you? No. And so that's where I'm talking about that. Yeah, individually, you are 1,000% right. Collectively, do these guys go in thinking, oh, yeah, no, I've got the coach, I've got the plan, we know exactly what we're going to do and we're going to win? I don't believe that, man. I don't believe that. They don't show me that every week. You know?
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
no, well, they don't show it. There's a lot of times where they don't show it. I think though athletes, they go into every game believing they can win, even when it's like they are 2 touchdown underdogs. I feel like athletes just always believe. You always go in believing. Maybe in the back of their mind, there is that one little doubt that's telling them, all right, do you really? But they go into every game with a belief. Now, maybe once a game progresses and you start seeing what the opposition is doing and that what you're doing isn't working and that some people, like you said, weren't prepared because of how they prepared during the week, then maybe during a game it could start to creep in. But I feel like they always do go in confidence.
Okay. All right. What are you working on in the Sentinel so folks can check you out?
Yeah, right now just on Jalen Ramsey watch, Jonnu Smith watch, a cornerback signing watch, and trying to take
You're bored as hell because there ain't shit going on.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's okay. I'm just like on, I'm taking it easy, and then only if there's news. So I got a few weeks where I could just pop in only if there's news.
So they're not sending you to Atlanta to cover PSG InterMiami now or something, on the side?
Yeah, no, not that. I was very grateful to get to cover some Panthers.
Dude. Hey, you get to cover a real winning team. I mean, that
was fun. Yeah,
dude, that's fun because you're certainly going to be in misery all year long covering the regular beat that you're on. All right, so you're on the beat of nothing right now because there's nothing going on, and your gut tells you there's nothing going to be going on till. It seems like we're going to have to get to training camp where there's some desperation that needs to set in. Maybe somebody needs to get injured or something to trigger one of these moves or something. I don't know.
That's how these things often pan out. Like I remember my first year on the beat, it was a Xavier Howard contract dispute. And it took until training camp started and that he was, what was he doing then? He was holding in. He would show up, but not participate. And then eventually there was one day we all came in and everything was gravy. Everything was just fine. They reached the contract agreement and he was back to work. And I feel like sometimes that's what needs to happen is some desperation, whether it's just training camp approaching and a resolution still not found for all these things, or just once training camp begins and you've got a holdout or a hold in or some other, like Tua's contract last year. That's when it happened. It was like 3 practices into camp. So something like that is why I'm still believing Jonnu Smith could still be a member of the Dolphins under a little bit of a pay raise next season. I know you're of the school of he gone, but
yeah, because he's 30 and he's going to want multiple years and more guarantees, and he's not going to get that. And so does he just settle for more guarantees within this year and then he puts himself at risk? And then, everybody talks about the Steelers and Arthur Smith, right? Correct? Okay. They still have Pat Freiermuth there. And they're gonna and now that Rodgers is in, him and Smith are meeting, and they're more of a run-oriented offense than a pass-oriented offense. Whereas Aaron Rodgers is gonna have to adjust to not passing as much as he passed last year, which I think he was like number 1 or number 3 or whatever there was in pass attempts. Like he passed a lot last year. That's not going to happen anymore. In Pittsburgh, they're going to run the ball more, and Arthur Smith is a run-oriented offensive coordinator. And then you have Pat Fryermuth, who is actually like perfect for that offense because he can block some, he's blue collar, and he's a solid tight end. But Jonnu is not really known to be a blocker, so you're not going to put him in line. You wouldn't use him as much. So the Steelers can't offer him a lot of money because they're not going to use him as a featured piece to the offense. So I'm wondering what the hell is going on with the Jonnu Smith situation and where is he going? And have you heard anything? Because when I start to like analyze what Pittsburgh is, what their DNA is, who they have on their roster, they really can't afford to bring Jonnu Smith on and give him a multi-year deal and a lot of money when they're really not going to use him as a focal point of the offense.
No, and no team that makes a move for Jonnu Smith is going to use him as an every down and inline blocking tight end because that's just not what he is. And even the Dolphins didn't really use him as such. So that's why Julian Hill got as many starts as he did. That's why Julian Hill got reps as he did. So yeah, you're using him to be that pass catching tight end, to whether it's dominate the middle of the field, give him the short passes so he can use his yards after the catch, let him be the red zone target. But even within that, where let's just say he gets somewhere between 50 to 60% of snaps in a game, he could still produce in those snaps in the passing game to the level of being a Pro Bowler who has 88 receptions, 884 yards, 8 touchdowns in a season. So that's the kind of production you're looking at in the passing game for the stuff that he does. Yeah, even the Dolphins wouldn't be using him in that way, but there's still a lot of value in what he presents. But what if it's like, I know you don't want to add on too many years, but what if it's just you were already planning on paying him this year? If you give him something for the next year after, and it's just you're right back to a new 2-year, which is what you originally brought him on to, but with some more guarantees because of what he proved with his Pro Bowl season.
Oh, dude, you're not. I'm not arguing with you at all. I would love to bring him back. I'm just looking at the situation on his behalf. He's about to be 30 and he signed a terrible contract. His agent did a shitty job. And now he's in a really difficult situation because this is his last deal. This is his last deal. And he has to make it the best he can possibly make it. And by just adding extra money for this year or even just for next year, it locks him in and he's done. And, you know, it really puts him in a tough situation. Plus, he's not going to win because he's not really in a winning environment right now. So it's a rock and a hard place right now for everybody. And I believe the Dolphins are not investing long-term anymore in Mike McDaniel because they don't know if he's going to even be the offensive coordinator next year. And they don't want to go through this whole bullshit again that if they bring another guy in and he doesn't like Jonnu Smith and then you got to move him and you just signed him. And so they've been dealing with too much of that lately. And I think they refuse to add another one of those kind of salaries. The Jalen Ramsey thing is just a great example right now. You just paid him and now you're in a shitload of trouble because of this whole thing. And he's got you by the balls because you gave him all the guarantees. And once you give a player guarantees, Tyreek Hill, they got you by the balls. And so this is the problem with them. They've got their balls in a brace by many people and they're tired of it. And I don't think they want to do it again. I really don't. You know?
Yeah, I hear you. Well, with Jonathan, that's why compromise is what needs to be found between both sides. He doesn't want to play on the current deal, and for Jonathan,
it has to be that no deal happens. Like they cannot find. Nobody's willing to give him a multi-year deal. Like Drew's talked to other teams. Like they're like, yeah, go ahead and see if you can find anybody. And nobody wants to get. And then they have to come back and crawling and say, okay, well, we'll take extra money this year and next year or something like that. That's if the Dolphins are willing to even do that for next year. I don't even know that, bro. I just don't know that if they're willing to do it. That's the part I don't know if they're even willing to do that for next year. Dude, you don't tell a player when he comes to you, I need a new deal. Oh, okay, wait a minute. Let's call Pittsburgh. When that happens, that tells me that you're done. You're done, bro. You're done. It's hard to come back from that. You have basically told him, no, we're not giving you more money. We're not moving on with you. This is that we end our relationship this year. And then he's like, shit, I don't want to do that. No, I'm 30. What if I blow out my knee here this year? I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah, there's that. But even in the scenario of you're moving on from Mike McDaniel after this next season, it's not going to be a complete offensive overhaul because you still have Tua for at least a year after that. Now it could be a new head coach is then bringing in just has him for the 1 year and then figures out what the plan is, whether it's a rookie quarterback or whatever veteran becomes available. Then
that's the part I don't. Tua is not your problem.
Oh yeah, no, but I'm saying it's not a complete offensive overhaul.
Any head coach that has a brain just build an offensive line, bro. The guy's fine. The guy can kick ass for you, but if you don't want to build an offensive line in a running game, well, then I'm sorry, bro. I mean, you're not going to win with anybody.
That's just why I'm saying you could go into that second year if you want to keep Jonnu Smith happy. Even if you were of the mindset of we might be moving on from Mike McDaniel down the road, is that it's still not going to be a complete offensive overhaul. You're still going to have Tua, Jalen Waddle. You're still going to have some of the pieces on the offense rolling over. If it were to go all the way to an overhaul, then that wouldn't completely occur until another couple of years down the road.
Crazy shit. All right. Follow him on Twitter at David Furones _, and catch his work there. Boring work right now because there's nothing going on as he's in the Jalen, Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and what's the other watch?
Cornerback signing.
Oh, and cornerback signing. That'll happen closer to training camp. That one I have some hope for you. I think keep an eye on that one. That one I have some hope for you in the next couple of weeks of happening. The other two, I don't know when the hell that one's going to happen. That one is not good. Anyway, you have a fantastic weekend, young man. I appreciate you as always. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You got it. Jeff Welton, Daniel Rheaume, they know how to get it done. If you're dealing with bankruptcy, personal injury, homeowner property damage, commercial litigation, condo damage, business owner claims, even criminal defense, man, call Jeff Welton, Daniel Rheaume, 954-966-4646.